The sound of boots clicking against the cold metallic floor echoed through the silent, abandoned corridors of the bridge. A small dark figure approached the control center, carrying a blood-soaked sword, its length tarnished by the horrors it had wrought in battle. The figure's face was obscured by the tattered hood of a once imposing military cloak, but the glow of their eyes, the eyes of a human, pierced through the darkness like two burning embers. In the galactic hallways of the Alaroth Empire, it was said that the final hour was when all hope had been lost, when nothing could save the galaxy from the rise of their unstoppable might. Yet, as the last remnants of the human resistance stood firm against the overwhelming forces of the alien warlords, the galaxy itself seemed to pause. Time hung suspended, uncertain of what was to come. It had been centuries since the first human ship had entered the domain of the Andromedan Alliance. The human race, once a fledgling species confined to a pale blue dot in the vastness of the cosmos, had become the symbol of defiance. A thorn in the side of every galactic power that sought to dominate the stars. To the Andromedans, the humans were an anomaly, a species too unpredictable and dangerous to allow to grow. Their relentless expansion through space, their refusal to bow to alien overlords, and their devastatingly effective warfare tactics had earned them the label of the untamable. But that had been over 200 years ago. Since then, the Andromedans had crushed every rebellion, and the Alaroth Empire, a conglomeration of over 500 worlds, had swept through the human colonies like wildfire. The human resistance had clung to the outer fringes of the galaxy, but even that was beginning to falter. Only a handful of fighters remained, their numbers dwindling by the day. The alien forces thought they had won. They had overrun the core worlds. They had taken Earth. The Alaroth Empire had dispatched its elite forces, the Zark Kal, a breed of genetically enhanced, ruthlessly intelligent super-soldiers, to complete the final purge. The mission was clear: extinguish the last flickers of humanity. Erase the species from existence. But the Zark Kal had not accounted for the last card the humans still had to play. The Alaroth Empire's flagship, the Sovereign's Wrath, stood at the edge of the system. It was a massive vessel, larger than any ship the humans had ever seen, its sleek, metallic form gleaming against the backdrop of the nebula. Thousands of troops were ready to descend on the human stronghold below. The human resistance, now reduced to less than 50 soldiers, had gathered in an underground cavern on the moon of a dying planet. They were vastly outnumbered, and defeat seemed inevitable. Captain Sarah Voss, the leader of the resistance, was standing in front of a holographic map, analyzing the enemy's formation. Her mind raced with countless scenarios, none of them good. Her thoughts drifted to Earth, to the cities in ruins, to the families torn apart by the relentless alien forces. But there was no time for nostalgia. "Captain, they're coming," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Voss looked up, her eyes hardening. "Then we stand and fight. We may be outnumbered, but we are not defeated." The door to the command center slammed open, and a familiar face appeared. A face that had once been a symbol of humanity's strength. General Caleb Hawke. His uniform was torn, his face bloodied, but there was a fire in his eyes that could not be extinguished. He walked in, his every step exuding the confidence that had kept them alive through impossible odds. "They think they've won, Sarah. They think they've crushed us," he said grimly. Sarah nodded. "That's what they believe, and that's exactly what we'll use against them." Sarah's plan was audacious, even by human standards. She had sacrificed almost everything, half of the remaining fleet, the last stockpiles of weapons, even their strategic advantage. But in her heart, she knew that humanity's greatest strength had never been numbers, or technology, or even strategy. It was something deeper, and the aliens had forgotten it. The Zark Kal soldiers descended like shadows, their cloaking technology rendering them invisible to most radar systems. They moved swiftly, silently, their footsteps barely audible against the alien landscape of the moon. Their mission: eliminate every human in sight. But as they approached the Resistance's last stronghold, something strange happened. The silence that enveloped them was disturbed, not by sound, but by a strange sense of unease. Like something was wrong, something they hadn't anticipated. The Zark-Kal soldiers halted, scanning the terrain for movement, but there was none. No sign of life. The humans had been cornered, their resistance shattered. "Ready the detonation squads," the lead Zark-Kal commander ordered, his voice a mechanical rasp. "It ends now." But before the order could be carried out, an unexpected transmission echoed through their communication channels. It was a single voice, human. "Rule number 1, the voice said, calm and steady. The Zark-Kal soldiers froze. Rule number 1, the phrase was ancient, a legend among the human race. It was said to be the most sacred of all human beliefs, an unwritten law that governed their very survival. No alien force had ever understood it until now. "Rule number 1, the voice repeated, this time with more force. "You forgot it," the Zark-Kal commander snarled. "This is no time for human nonsense. Terminate all resistance immediately." But the voice on the other end wasn't finished. "Rule number 1, never underestimate humanity." A cascade of data flooded the alien systems. In the blink of an eye, the Zark-Kal soldiers found themselves caught in a web of countermeasures, encrypted codes, and unexpected traps. The entire moon was rigged. Explosives buried beneath the surface, cloaked ships ready to strike, and human technology, stolen, modified, and perfected over decades, now flooded the alien forces with overwhelming chaos. The Zark-Kal were trapped. As the Zark-Kal soldiers scrambled, disoriented and confused, the humans made their move. The resistance fighters, hidden in plain sight, rose from the shadows, attacking with a precision and ferocity that the aliens could not have predicted. Sarah Voss, standing at the heart of the operation, watched in awe as her team executed the plan flawlessly. Their strategy had been simple: create a false surrender, lure the Zark-Kal in, and then unleash every weapon, every advantage they had kept hidden over the years. They had spent decades in exile, learning to fight not just with guns and ships, but with the very fabric of the galaxy itself. The Alaroth Empire had underestimated humanity's adaptability, their ability to survive, to outthink, to outlast. And now, they were paying the price. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The Zark-Kal had been defeated on the surface of the moon, but their defeat was just the first step. The human resistance had rallied, but the Empire's forces were vast. Yet, as Sarah Voss stood among her soldiers, her eyes burning with resolve, she knew one undeniable truth. The Empire had thought they had crushed humanity. They had thought they had won. But they had forgotten rule number 1. Humanity had never surrendered, and they never would. The broadcast that followed reverberated across the galaxy. "This is the voice of humanity," Sarah's voice rang out, clear and defiant. "We are not your subjects. We are not your slaves, and we will never, ever bow to you. You've forgotten rule number 1, and now we will make you remember." Across countless star systems, every human stronghold, every hidden outpost, every flicker of resistance rose together. The Andromedan Alliance, the Zark-Kal, the Alaroth Empire, they would all soon learn the cost of underestimating humanity. The war had only just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Months passed since the fall of the Zark-Kal on that frozen moon. The galaxy was far from healed, but humanity's victory had sent shockwaves across the cosmos. There were whispers in the back alleys of alien spaceports, in the corridors of the Alaroth Empire's sprawling citadels, and in the war rooms of the Andromedan Alliance, whispers of a rising power that refused to be crushed. The news was out. Humanity had come from the brink of annihilation and delivered a blow to the galaxy's most formidable warlords. And they were not done. The Sovereign's Wrath, the flagship of the Alaroth Empire, had been severely damaged in the aftermath of the battle on the moon. While it wasn't destroyed, it had taken a critical blow, and its commanders were in disarray. But they knew one thing above all. They needed to strike back. A cornered beast was always the most dangerous. In the shadow of the crumbling empire, the humans were rebuilding, slowly but steadily. New alliances were forged, older tactics revisited, and the remnants of humanity's former colonies rallied. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about retribution, about setting the galaxy back on its axis. The Alaroth forces had miscalculated when they thought the human race was on the verge of extinction. They had overlooked something crucial, the nature of humanity itself. And now, as Sarah Voss stood in the command center of the newly reconstructed Hope's Horizon, the flagship of the new human fleet, she understood the weight of the burden on her shoulders. The Resistance was no longer a ragtag group of survivors. It was an army. And this army was not bound by the conventions of war the aliens were used to. They had learned from the Alaroth, from the Zarkakal, and from every skirmish over the years. Humanity's strength was not in numbers, but in ingenuity, unpredictability, and a refusal to die. Across the galaxy, the Zarkakal and their allies convened in a hidden war council. The Andromedan Alliance, the Urkan Dominion, the Zarthel clans. Each faction had faced the crushing blow that humanity had dealt them. Together, they plotted their next move. But they were divided. Some factions demanded total annihilation, others sought negotiation, while the Zarkakal, their pride wounded more than their physical form, had only one solution in mind. "Crush them," growled Commander Zarak, the Zarkakal leader, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "We underestimated them once. We will not make that mistake again." His words were cold, calculated. Yet deep beneath his armor there was something more. A growing fear that humanity had not just won a battle, but had shifted the balance of power across the entire galaxy. "I agree," said Hirael, a sharp-minded Urkan tactician. "But we must understand how they think. Their minds are a maze we've only begun to explore. They don't fight like us." Zarak's eyes narrowed. "You mean they fight like humans?" A heavy silence followed. The room seemed to darken as the truth of that statement hung in the air. Humanity didn't fight by any rules the galaxy's greatest minds could predict. They fought with sheer will, with emotion, with something no algorithm or strategy could account for. It was something that could not be defeated by weapons alone. Back on Earth, Sarah Voss and General Caleb Hawke had begun to track the movements of the alien fleets. The battle had begun to shift toward the outer colonies, and the fragile peace between the various resistance factions was beginning to fray under the strain. New alliances were formed, some with races humanity had once fought against, and others with new galactic powers who saw the Alaroth Empire as a common enemy. The humans had learned something in their struggle for survival. They understood that every victory came with a price, but every loss came with a lesson. And they were learning quickly. Sarah sat at the command table, scanning the holographic projections of the alien fleets. "We need to hit them before they regroup," she said, her voice steely. General Hawke nodded. "But we can't do it with the fleets we have. We'll need something unexpected." "Exactly," Sarah replied, a sly smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "We need a wild card." And then it hit her. They needed to go to the heart of the beast. They needed to hit the capital of the Alaroth Empire itself. The Hope's Horizon moved swiftly through space, cloaked by the advanced human technology that the Empire had never anticipated. But they were not alone. The last time Sarah had met the commander of the alien race, known as the Varek, she had been left with an uneasy feeling. The Varek were a shadowy race of technomancers, masters of manipulation and information warfare. They were nothing like the Zark-Kal or the Andromedans. Their power lay not in brute force, but in the ability to control minds, to bend reality through technology. And now the Varek were back, and they had come to offer something far more dangerous than anything Sarah could have predicted. "Captain Voss," said a voice over the comm, smooth and cold, "we have a proposition for you." It was the Varek's leader, Val Rith. "I know you have no love for us human," Val Rith continued, "but we share a common enemy now, the Alaroth Empire. You can win this war. We can help you." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The Varek were notorious for their manipulation. They rarely acted without an ulterior motive. "Why should I trust you?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "Because we're not offering you an army. We're offering you the truth," Val Rith replied cryptically. "The Alaroth have been hiding something, a weapon so powerful that they have kept it secret for eons. A weapon that could end this war in a single blow." Sarah exchanged a glance with General Hawk. "What weapon?" Val Rith's response was chilling. "An ancient relic, a being of unimaginable power, something they created, something they've kept locked away. We can guide you to it." Against her better judgment, Sarah decided to take the risk. The Varek were deceitful, but their offer was too tempting to ignore. If they could unlock the weapon hidden by the Alaroth Empire, it might be the key to ending the war for good. But as the Hope's horizon followed the Varek through the treacherous paths of the galaxy, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were heading into a trap. Every instinct told her to turn back, but her duty to humanity and to the future kept her moving forward. The journey took them to the very heart of the Alaroth Empire, a star system surrounded by impenetrable barriers and guarded by the most elite warriors the galaxy had ever known. The final confrontation was near, and with it came the realization that nothing would ever be the same. They had reached the location. The weapon. The Alaroth had thought it was hidden, but humanity, once again, had proven them wrong. As the Hope's horizon approached the Alaroth capital, Sarah Voss's mind raced. She had never expected the war to lead them here, to this ancient, forgotten corner of the galaxy. But as they activated the Varek's coordinates and breached the final layer of security, a voice echoed through her mind, a voice she hadn't heard in months. Rule number 1. The words were simple, yet profound. Never underestimate humanity. Sarah smiled grimly, knowing what had to be done. The Alaroth thought they had hidden everything. They thought they had won. But humanity had just found its most powerful weapon yet, hope. And the Alaroth Empire would soon learn that they had underestimated the power of the human spirit. The stars outside the viewport of the Hope's horizon seemed to stretch into infinity. But within Sarah Voss's chest, there was only one thought. A simple, undeniable truth that had guided humanity through the worst of times. Rule number 1, never underestimate humanity. The Alaroth Empire had brought them to the brink of extinction. They had believed their victory was assured. And yet here humanity stood at the very gates of the Empire's heart, ready to tear down its walls and strike at the core of its power. But they weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the future of every sentient species in the galaxy. "Sarah," General Caleb Hawk's voice broke through her thoughts. He stood beside her, his expression steely, his military precision unmistakable. "We're about to make history. You ready?" She met his gaze and nodded, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. "We're not just making history, Caleb. We're changing the galaxy. Forever." The Varek were guiding them to the heart of the Alaroth Empire. They had promised to reveal the weapon that the Alaroth had hidden away for centuries, something more powerful than any fleet, more destructive than any bomb. a weapon the Empire had crafted not of metal and fire, but of flesh and mind. Something so ancient and dangerous that even the Alaroth had feared it. The final jump through the hidden folds of space was upon them. A deep tremor surged through the Hope's horizon as the ship slipped past the last barrier, entering the heart of Alaroth space. It was like entering the mouth of a giant beast. Ahead of them lay the capital, the great city world of Alaroth Prime, its vast metropolis glittering with the energy of a dying empire, now more a fortress than a city. "We've arrived," Sarah said, her voice firm. "Prepare for extraction." The coordinates led them to an ancient, forgotten structure buried beneath the capital's surface. The Alaroth had built over it, forgotten its purpose, and locked it away with layers of secrets. The structure was part tomb, part temple, its walls carved with strange symbols that even the Varek found puzzling. As Sarah and her team descended to the planet's surface in a cloaked shuttle, the tension in the air was palpable. The Resistance had no illusions. This mission would cost them. The Alaroth would come for them, every elite soldier, every warship, and every last shred of their might. But Sarah's mind was focused not on the odds, but on the final objective. They reached the structure's entrance, a massive obsidian archway that pulsed with an eerie energy. The symbols on its surface began to glow faintly as they approached. A low hum filled the air, as if the structure itself was alive, aware of their presence. "Is this it?" Caleb asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "This is where it all began," Sarah whispered. "This is what the Alaroth were hiding." The Varek had told them that the weapon they sought was not a machine, but a living being. Something born of forgotten science, a creature that had been part of an ancient war that had shaped the galaxy long before the Alaroth rose to power. As they entered, the interior of the structure revealed itself, an underground cathedral of stone, glowing with an unnatural light. At the far end, suspended in a massive chamber, was the creature. It was a being like no other, a towering, translucent form that seemed to pulse with energy, its body a mixture of biological and crystalline structures. Its eyes, a deep, endless black, seemed to stare directly at them. "It's alive," Caleb muttered, awe and fear in his voice. "It was never meant to be awakened," Sarah replied. "But the galaxy needs it now." The creature began to stir as they approached, its form shifting as though it was aware of their intrusion. Then, to Sarah's shock, a voice filled her mind, a voice ancient, powerful, and chilling. "You have come. Humanity has come." Sarah's heart raced. "Who are you?" "I am the first, the weapon you seek, the progenitor of all." The being's words were filled with centuries of wisdom, and yet they were edged with something darker. It spoke not with emotion, but with the cold certainty of a force beyond comprehension. "I was created to end wars, to bring peace, to reset the balance of the galaxy. But in time, I was locked away, because my creators feared me. They feared what I could do." Sarah stood motionless, processing the weight of the creature's revelation. "You are a weapon of peace?" "Yes," it replied, "but not in the way your galaxy understands peace. I bring finality, the end of all conflict. My existence was an attempt to erase all violence, all suffering, by removing the cause, life itself." The gravity of the situation hit Sarah with full force. They had stumbled upon not a tool of war, but a force of extinction, a weapon that could erase entire species, entire worlds, in the name of peace. She turned to Caleb, her face pale. "What have we unleashed?" Before he could respond, the voice in her mind grew stronger. "You misunderstand, human. I am not a weapon of destruction. I am a catalyst, a force that can end the endless cycles of violence or ignite a new era. I can do this, but only if you choose it." The choice hung before Sarah like a blade, poised to strike. If they awoke the creature, they could end the Alaroth, the Zarkal, and all of their enemies in a single devastating stroke. The galaxy would be forever changed. But at what cost? The weapon could also turn its power on humanity itself, on everything that had ever fought for freedom. Sarah's mind raced. This was not just a military decision, it was a philosophical one, a question of what kind of future they wanted to create. "If I choose this," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of her decision, "can we survive it?" The being's answer was cold, unyielding. The galaxy must make its choice, and if humanity is to endure, you must lead it. Choose wisely. The final battle was upon them. As Sarah stood before the creature, Caleb at her side, she knew this moment would decide the fate of the galaxy. But it was not just her decision, it was humanity's decision. The Varric, the Andromedans, the Irkan, they all looked to her, waiting for the signal that would shape the future. The alien forces, upon learning that humanity had reached the capital, began their full mobilization. The Alaroth fleet surged forward, every weapon in their arsenal poised for a cataclysmic strike. Sarah raised her hand, signaling the resistance fleet to ready themselves. She had no illusions of winning this fight conventionally. They would need more than just courage and weapons. They needed the power of choice. "Prepare the weapon," Sarah ordered, her voice steady. The Hope's horizon unleashed a signal, a pulse that reached across the galaxy, waking the creature, unleashing its dormant power. It was no longer just a weapon. It was a force that transcended everything. As its energy surged through the galaxy, the Alaroth fleet faltered, its ships grinding to a halt. The galaxy held its breath as the creature's power cascaded across the stars. But instead of destruction, it began to transform. The weapon didn't erase life. It reconfigured it. The hatred and greed that had fueled millennia of war dissolved, replaced by an overwhelming wave of empathy, understanding, and connection. And as the energy reverberated through the galaxy, a new era was born. Chapter 20. Rule. Number 1. The New Beginning. When the dust settled, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Alaroth Empire had fallen, not through annihilation, but through the transformation of the very core of what made them conquerors. The Zarkakal and their allies, too, were changed, not eradicated, but guided into a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And humanity, as always, stood at the center of it. Sarah Voss looked out at the vastness of space, her gaze unwavering. "We did it," she whispered. Caleb stood beside her, his voice soft but resolute. "We did it, Sarah. We proved the galaxy wrong. We survived. We thrived." And with that, Sarah Voss understood. The galaxy had always underestimated humanity, but now they would never forget again. The end.